William Henry Buddy Deppenschmidt was born February 16, 1936, and was a son, master drummer, musician, father, grandfather, friend, and an educator. His legacy is incredible, one most people could never achieve. His drumming and music not only impacted the world of music, but changed it forever. Few names in music have ever done this, but Buddy, along with his bandmates, accomplished this in spades. Here is the first-hand story of how Buddy met Charlie Byrd.
When I met Charlie Byrd, I was playing a jazz festival in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and
That was 1959?
that was 1958 or 9,
That's incredible.
somewhere around there. And oh my God, it's a long time ago.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's 70 years ago. And anyway, I was heard by Charlie Byrd was on the bill, and he was in the audience. Dave Brubeck was also on the bill, and he was in the audience. And I wanted to take lessons with his drummer, who was Joe Morello, and I always idolized Joe Morello. So 35 years later, I finally studied with Joe Morello. But it took that long, and I had to move up north from Washington, D.C., where Charlie Byrd was playing. And by the way, Charlie Byrd heard me that night on that Virginia Beach Jazz Festival. I was playing with a piano player named Newton Thomas, and it was a good band. That was the hardest decision I had to make in my life. Do you really want to leave this band? He gives you a chance to play, and he played very well. He was all self-taught. He was a country and western disc jockey.
Wow.
During the daytime.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And then went out and played jazz at night, and he played very well.
Oh.
And I felt honored to play with him. He was the best that Richmond, Virginia had to offer.
Wow.
I mean, they had a lot of good bands, and this band was top notch. And I had to quit him to go with Charlie Byrd. One night, Charlie Byrd and his wife and his drummer and his drummer's wife all came into the club where I was playing. This was 2 nights after the Jazz Festival at Virginia Beach. And we were playing in a town about 20 miles, maybe 25 miles from Virginia Beach. And we were in a town called Ocean View. And in comes Charlie Byrd, and he says, his wife passes me this note, and I didn't know what it said. So, being a young jazz drummer, I said, excuse me, I have to go to the restroom. And I got up and I went into the men's restroom, and I read the note, and it said, I didn't know what I was going to say. And it said, if you're interested in joining my band, give me a phone call at this number, and you can come up to Washington, D.C. and audition. And I thought, maybe I don't want to leave this band that I'm very happy with.
Yeah.
I was about 22.
Wow. 3 months, and it was live at the Village Vanguard, correct?
Well, the first album that I made with Charlie was called The Guitar Artistry of Charlie Byrd. He called it Charlie's Choice originally, and it was on the Offbeat label. Later, that label was purchased by Riverside, and Riverside reissued the album, changed the title from Charlie's Choice to The Guitar Artistry of Charlie Byrd. sound of it. And I changed everything I did to blend in. I mean, when you're playing drums with unamplified guitar and unamplified stand-up bass, you have to play softly. So I had to play brushes almost all the time. I hardly ever played with sticks. And fortunately, my brush technique improved, but unfortunately, my stick technique went downhill because I wasn't using them enough. And yeah, but I was trying to blend in with the sound of the group. As I said, a drummer has to be a musical chameleon. Well, Charlie came up to me one day and he said, we have an offer to go to South America and play 18 countries. Every country in South America, every country in Central America, and Mexico. And I said, do you want to go? And I said, well, of course I want to go. And he said, well, how much would you need to get? And I said, well, I don't know. What is the going rate for drummers to South America? I think I took about $150.
That's a day, right?
A week.
A whole week.
A week.
Wow. But then, and you were how old at this point?
22.
22 years old, going.
I was a babe in the woods.
Now it's the circumstances of how you guys got the gig and how you guys got the tour. It was the U.S. State Department tour, correct?
A lot of diplomats would come into the showboat to hear Charlie Byrd, and we were very popular in D.C. We were probably the most popular jazz group in D.C. And dignitaries, when someone from another country was visiting the United States, they would all take them to the showboat to hear Charlie Byrd. And so a lot of State Department people were coming in, and senators, and you know, it was a real Washington, D.C. crowd.
Yes,
and
the Royal Band.
So Charlie comes up to me one day and he says, we have an offer to go to the State Department, or rather it was sponsored by the State Department. We have an offer to go to South America, Central America, 18 countries.
How long was the tour?
3 months.
18 countries in 3 months.
And I was married with 2 young children. So that's not easy to be away from your family for 3 months, you know.
Yeah, sure.
And so I took the job and I went to South America, and little did I know that it was going to be dangerous, but I was going to be on vacation, get an education, and do what I like to do and get paid for it. And I thought, it doesn't get any better than this. Quite an experience. And it was down there that I learned about the Bossa Nova. So as soon as I got back, I wanted to, of course, make an album of this type. I was invited over to a girl's house whose name was Maria Dolores Pedernez, and now she just goes by the name of Malou Pedernez. And I didn't know if she was flirting with me or not. She came over and said, come over to my house tomorrow and we'll play you some John Gilberto. And I said, well, Keeter and I just went out and bought his records yesterday. And she said, well, then we'll teach you the rhythm, how to play it. My boyfriend is a drummer, and I said, wonderful. She said, bring your sticks and your brushes. So I did, and I accepted, and the rest is history. We did that album. As soon as I got back, I was so anxious to do an album of Bossa Nova, which was the Brazilian craze at the time. It was like rock and roll in this country. It was very popular, and it was new. And it was like playing rock and roll during the Fats Domino era, during the mid-50s, you know.